Toastmasters and guest. I am happy to join you here today to tell you that we can find greatness in ourselves, in our communities, and in our world when the force propelling us forward rises from the wings of compassion. Compassion eases our suffering, compassion makes us better leaders, and compassion brings the world together. The rise of the human race will be moved by the power of compassion. There was a time in your life, think back, that you faced a challenge in this world and you were plagued by a sense that you lacked the power to do all that you wanted to do, or that you were misjudged or misunderstood when you tried to exercise the power that you had. Even if you are among the lucky few who cannot recall such a time in your life, you have in fact faced such a time. For each of us enters the world in a state of powerlessness. In infancy, we cannot help ourselves completely. And it is only through the grace of our mothers or fathers or other caretakers that we survive long enough to forget that we once lived in that state. However imperfect our caretakers might have been, we were once at the mercy of their aid. Even as adults, most of us depend upon others in ways that we may not realize. We depend upon systems built by others, like the rule of law, trade and commerce, joint defense, or international peace, to be healthy, safe, and secure. Indeed, even the most staunch survivalist holds in his hand or her hand a weapon or a tool that was built by another, or survives by skills that were dreamt up in another's mind. No one among us can thank only ourselves for the lives that we live. Yet a circumstance of security can lead you to think so. Indeed, research shows that security and power can change your brain, making you blind to your interdependence and callous towards the needs of others. Research also shows, however, that practicing compassion can help restore your vision. It can make you a better you, it can make you a better leader, and it can make you a doer of greatness in this world. You know the expression, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. For all of human history, we have seen its effects. But it is only in the modern era that psychological research could shed light on exactly how power impacts our brain. Several years ago, researchers from Columbia University showed that participants who were asked to think about a time when they were in a situation of high power and high control fared worse than people who were asked to recall a time of low power at identifying emotions in images of faces. In similar research, where they also primed participants with power, this is called priming with power, they asked participants to draw the letter E on their forehead. Participants who were primed with the thought of power drew the letter E in an orientation as though they would view it backwards. They were 3 times more likely to do so than people primed with a low power position. Those primed with low power were more likely to draw the E in the orientation that it could be read by others. Power changes your ability to view things from other people's perspective. Another study by researchers at the University of Toronto followed brain activity in regions of the brain associated with empathy and mirroring. Mirroring is a particular quality of the brain where when you see someone else doing an action, your brain activity shows what you would see if you were doing the action yourself. People primed with the memory of high power showed lower activity in these parts of the brain when viewing videos of others engaged in a neutral activity, here squeezing a red rubber ball. Whereas people primed with a memory of powerlessness showed high activities in the empathy and mirroring parts of the brain. Power changes the brain. It makes you less capable of seeing another's perspective, less capable of identifying how others feel, and less able to empathize with or see others' situations. This is not a desirable condition for anyone looking to motivate or even just work with others. Power on the brain disables your interpersonal capacity. Now, other research has shown, not surprisingly, that empathy and compassion are among the top 5 traits that top executives have identified as contributing to their leadership skills, according to interviews with top executives conducted by researchers at USC. You know this intuitively. If you think back to your best managers, they were people who took the time to see things from your perspective, to listen to others, and to incorporate the views of others into their management and into their activities. When I think back personally to one of my favorite managers, it was an attorney I worked with on an appellate matter, Chris Landau, and we were working on this brief together, spent a lot of time drafting it, and I was responsible for much of the research and the drafting, as I had been in many other cases where I was involved. However, in the past, I typically would not have had my name listed on the brief because there's no client reason to put anyone except the person speaking at the appeal on the brief. Now, Chris took the time, unlike others, to think about how my career would be impacted by whether my name was on the materials. It didn't affect the client, but he took the time to see things from my perspective and to do something that helped my career by putting my name on that brief. And I remember the feeling almost overwhelmed that someone would take the time to do that for me. Empathy and compassion also makes leaders better able to understand competition and customers or clients. When you can put yourself into the shoes of your customers, for example, you can decide what features they might want. I can think, for example, of the Kindle. I use the Kindle device a lot for my kids, and they have this mode called Free Time that allows kids to use only specific apps that you choose and to not access the internet if you don't want them to. Now, I have had a world of trouble trying to use this Kindle Free Time program because there are so many aspects of it that are very user unfriendly. For example, if I buy a game for them on my profile and I purchase some content inside the game, I can't access that from the kids' Free Time profile. And it wasn't until maybe 5 years after I had the device that you can even change a setting to purchase that content for the kids separately. And then you call Amazon customer support for a reimbursement of the secondary purchase. It's a very non-intuitive procedure. And I kept thinking, if these people had kids that they used this for their own kids, they wouldn't have all these issues. Putting yourself in the shoes of your customers can change your product. It can also keep you one step ahead of competitors. For example, think of a game of chess where you need to think what moves the other player might make in order to play the best game. If you can't put yourselves in the shoes of the other player and think ahead of what moves they're going to make, you're not going to be able to win. It's the same in business. Compassion is also critical for the integration of diverse talent into an organization. If you manage, for example, a woman with young children, can you be accommodating when she has to take a break from a meeting to pump milk? If you manage racially diverse groups, can you understand when you're doing reviews that biases against them can impact their ability to proceed to management positions? Those who cannot lead with empathy will lose this diverse talent. And plenty of research demonstrates that when an organization draws from a smaller, less diverse talent pool, their performance suffers. Consistently in research spanning dozens of fields, gender diverse and racially diverse teams outperform their homogeneous counterparts. Compassion is good business. And compassion towards others is also good for you. When you work on compassion both towards yourself and for others, you can actually increase your own happiness. Research shows that, for example, loving kindness meditation can improve happiness, improve your lifespan, and decrease your susceptibility to disease. There's a reason why at the beginning of this talk, I asked you to think about a time of complete powerlessness. It's because thinking about that increases your empathy. If you continue to see the world through that lens, if you practice compassion towards yourself and others, you can change your brain for the better, and you can contribute more greatness to your organization and to your world. So remember that next time when you're in a position of power, take time to view things from other people's perspective. Remember that in another time and another circumstance, you were in need too. And if you have compassion, you can do great good in yourself, in your organization, and the world. Thank you.